I think the first shed get together when we're all allowed back together is going to be bananas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm quite worried actually.
I think that
it sounds like a concern.
I'm not sure the mean cat's going to survive.
No, it's not.
It is so great to see so many people celebrating International Women's Day this week, especially great to see the increase in females in tech roles, moving and retraining into tech roles, and especially from such a huge and wide variety of different backgrounds. I am delighted to catch up with two incredible women in tech. We have Anna Sutton and Steph Varley here with us today of The Data Shed.
Hi.
Hello,
That's amazing. If you could just give an introduction to our listeners. So Anna, if you could go first for us today.
Of course. So my name's Anna Sutton. I'm co-founder and CEO of The Data Shed. We've been going for 7.5 years now. Ed and I, who is my co-founder and my husband, we started the business about 7.5 years ago. I was 8 months pregnant, and from a marketing background, so quite a few challenges in that space. And the lovely Steph, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm Steph Varley. I've just recently moved out of the role of Anna and Ed's PA and into an employee engagement and office management role within the shed. So I've been working with them for around about 2.5 years now. So yeah, this is kind of a bit of a sad week because I feel like I'm like transitioning into this new role, but then maybe I won't see you as much.
It's an amazing week and we're really proud of you. I'm just personally really sad because I won't get to see your lovely face as much every day.
I'll book it in. I'll book them in your calendar anyway.
Oh. Just have to book in those short meetings of, hi, I miss you.
Yeah. And the dog. This is the thing. I'm going to have to catch up with the dog.
Well, you don't really care about me, do you? You just love the dog.
Mm-hmm. I mean, pets do take priority even here.
Yeah, I mean, pets are a priority in our engagement. In your engagement, aren't they, Steph? I mean, it's the number one on your hit list to have shed pets.
Shed pets. I love that.
And I used to get that request anyway when I wasn't in this role, so I feel like I'm going to get it more. So it's going to be, okay, now the office is open. When can we have dogs back in? It's not even an if now, it's just a when.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. Over how many desks do we have? Does everyone have enough space to sit? No. Where are we going to keep the dog?
And how many minutes can we spend a day fussing the dog?
Yeah, we'll leave that one to finance. We'll let Phil organise that one. He's like, there's not the utilisation number we're meant to be having here. It's very important nonetheless.
And to be fair, this leads me on to a topic that I'd really love to ask you both about, actually. Sort of 2021 is going to be the focus on the 3 C's, as Karen calls it here at North Coders, which is post-COVID, culture and community. So I suppose what I'd be really interested to know from either or both of you is how the Data Shed has adapted to sort of the new normal, or the new now, if you like, and how are you supporting your staff in that too?
I'll start with the new normal, and Steph, I'll let you talk about how we're supporting the team, seeing as you are very much at the heart of all that stuff. So we moved to working from home obviously last March, like everybody else, and we've been pretty much working from home since. We had a few forays into the office last summer. I mean, it's been relatively successful for us because we're already kind of working using agile methodologies, so with stand-ups and get-togethers, and there was quite a useful structure already in place in how we were working that meant that switching to home working wasn't as disruptive as it could have been. We obviously sent everybody off home with an office chair and a monitor that needed one. I mean, it was absolute carnage in our office on March the 12th, 13th, I can't remember. And we decided we were closing the office, and we opened it up for one last kind of entry point where everyone could come and take all the stuff that they wanted. And it looked like the office had been robbed by the end of it. It was absolute chaos. But I mean, it was just so lovely to see everybody offering people lifts with chairs everywhere, and there was a real kind of community spirit to the whole thing. I mean, obviously the novelty has somewhat worn off now. we're doing all sorts to keep people engaged, which I'll let Steph touch about. I mean, I think all the way through there has been a huge focus for us on maintaining our culture. And I've spoken to a few people about this. I don't think anybody, myself included, really understood the importance of culture before this year. I mean, we always invested a lot in our culture, and because we all wanted to work in a nice place, and Ed and I didn't set up a company to work and live basically somewhere that we didn't enjoy. So the culture's always been reflective of the fact that we wanted to work in a place that we enjoyed and didn't have the Sunday dread. But I don't think any of us could have predicted just how valuable that would have been this year. And it is a bit like a bank account that you've got to keep topping up. And, it is starting to drain quite thoroughly now after a year working from home. And I think everyone's got a serious amount of fatigue, working from home fatigue. But overall, we've weathered it quite well. But mainly, I think because we already had invested quite so much in our culture beforehand. But Steph, over to you on our current support plans.
I think it's funny that you say that, like, we invested so much in it before COVID happened, because I think that was such a massive point that people joined the shed for. But I feel like that still trickled over into lockdown. People seem to be reflecting on that and saying, I feel really welcome and I feel like you've got a really good culture here. So it's really nice that even though maybe that culture is slightly different because we've had to adapt it, that is a reason why people are still joining us. And it just feels like it's just part of the day-to-day now. Like, if I'll try and look back and think about what we did before for culture, if I think about it, I can probably pinpoint a few things, but I just feel like it was just ingrained in everyday living. It wasn't like we had a schedule of stuff that we had to uphold, if that makes sense. I just feel like it's just the way that you've brought people in, and the atmosphere that's there. So I guess that's...
The beer fridge probably had quite a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Maybe the factors too as well.
There were 2 beer fridges, a very strong coffee machine. But I think it's the overall, work-life. There's always been a real focus on work-life balance as well that I think has kind of really carried into this year. We don't expect people to ever miss things like nativity plays and anything really that's important to life. We figure it all out. We're all grown-ups at the end of the day, and that's always, that's always been our mantra. We hire people, the grown-ups. They know what's expected of them, and as long as they get that done, then that's fine. We just figure it all out together. But I think one of the things that is the most important things I learned in my 20s and have brought to the Data Shed is the importance of feedback training. So actually, kind of how important it is to be able to give people constructive feedback and also to be able to receive it yourself. And one of the things that we're really keen on is actually, we're all responsible for each other's development. And we're all responsible for making each other better. It isn't just the line manager's responsibility to feedback to their team. That's a two-way street, and Steph's given me feedback in the past, which has been really welcome. But it's also kind of really important that we're all feeding back to each other, and that's how we maintain our culture. Because if people are doing things that are contrary to that culture, then they need to know about it. Because it's just really, it's really important. Everybody treasures it at the Data Shed, and everyone really values being a shedder. And I think it's because everyone treasures it and fights to maintain it that we've had such success this year, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the fact that people can give their opinion as well and not be judged, and it is very much an open forum. So if someone wants to do something, or there's something that's important to you, bring it to the table and we'll have a chat about it. And your opinion is always considered, which is nice. It doesn't matter what role you're in. It doesn't matter how new you are. Your opinion is valid and it's welcomed. And that's a really nice thing to be able to come in day one and know that. If you're in a meeting or if you need to give someone feedback, you know that it's going to be taken and respected.
Respect is a huge part of our culture. I mean, Ed and I, because we're married, when we started the business, we were really conscious that we'd very easily become an echo chamber of, agreeing with each other and blah, blah. We live together. We like each other. Well, kind of still. But it's really important for us to have other voices in the mix, and it always has been, to make sure that we didn't end up leading each other down a path of no return because we both thought it was a good idea. So we've always really valued other voices in the mix. And I think that's just kind of spread out into the wider team. And this is where diversity and inclusion has such a huge part to play in organisations, that it isn't just about the colour of your skin or your background or the way you were raised. Actually, it's about having those different voices that come from all walks of life and all experiences. It isn't a numbers game. It's about actually making sure that we have voices from all backgrounds to come together to give us that opposing view, or to give us a different viewpoint, or to make us think differently, because everybody from the same background, from the same experience, is always going to come to a very similar conclusion, and that's just really boring more than anything else.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I mean, myself, I'm fully aware of the culture that the Data Shed has, and it's something that is very known in Leeds. So that's just a testament to you both and the rest of the team, and on the jobs that you do to achieve that culture. And Steph, I was quite interested in what you said about the past year and continuing to expand and to grow. So I'm personally really interested on how you've done that from like a remote perspective, how you've sort of achieved the same, onboarding process and achieving that culture through hiring. So that'd be really great to hear about as well.
Yes, so we started out, and I think this is probably similar to other companies, in that we probably overdid it a little bit in the beginning, where we were like, we need to make sure everybody's talking all the time, and let's just do everything that we did in the shed online. Let's try and find a replacement for that digitally. And people were engaged and people were getting on, and then we started to kind of get some feedback that there was too many chats on Teams, and there was too many emails, and there was too many meetings. And it was like, okay, we just need to, let's start filtering things out. What do people want to actually do with their day? Who do they need to talk to? And how often do we need to check in with people? Mm-hmm. So I think that's quite a nice process to kind of offer everyone everything and then start filtering it down. But we've done things like, we used to have yoga in the office. So we tried that. We did some online sessions and offered that out to people. We've done care packages and pizza nights. We obviously had quite a big Christmas do, which was virtual, which was something that was really nice for everyone to look forward to. And then generally, we've just tried to keep in touch with everybody. What was it called? Chicken shop chat? Is it the lunchtime?
I don't really understand where it came from. That's nothing to do with us. I think that was Will. I think there's a few of them that have done a tour of the chicken kebab shops around Mabgate Mills area, and I think they were just trying to recreate the chats that they had on the walks to the kebab shop. I think other places might have called it, water cooler chats, but no, at the Data Shed it is called chicken shop chats.
Good to be different.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did try to do a couple of different things like that, where we just were checking in with people and saying, look, there's a meeting there, and if you want to join it, it's optional, but let's make sure that everyone feels like they're included and they can join. And even if they do join, they don't have to join in. So you can just sit and listen or sit and kind of get to know people and feel like you're going to get picked on to talk or anything like that. But yeah, I think, like Anna said, feedback was a massive thing throughout lockdown, was getting people's feedback and not just presuming that what we were doing was working, testing it out and going to the team and saying, did you enjoy it? And do you want us to continue doing this? Let's try something else. So it's been a lot of trial and error. And, we've developed things like, we've now got a diversity and inclusion panel, which is nice because that's something that obviously came up through lockdown with the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's just being able to focus on those things, but also give people an opportunity to do something that's a little bit bigger than their role or outside of their role, so that they feel like they're inputting into the business and not just kind of stuck in their day job. They're actually adding value to the company and being able to get to know people outside of their team as well, which is quite nice. So we've tried to do things like that with a bit of cross team communication going on.
Yeah, I think that for me, the best bit about setting up the shed and building a company is that it now has a life of its own. So the first few years there was just a few of us, and it was kind of, Ed and I were the shed, and now we're not. It's got its own culture, it's got its own life force, and it's got it, and everybody's feeding into that. And and relationships and friendships are made, and it's just wonderful to watch. It's probably been the best part of the experience for me.
I love the way that you talk about the shed as well. It's so heartwarming actually to hear, because obviously it's almost like your baby. I mean, you were pregnant obviously when it was born. So.
I feel like it. It's probably the most time consuming baby out of the lot, to be honest.
No, it's absolutely lovely the way you speak about it and the way you talk about it. Just shows that you are. Obviously you're invested in it, but the fact that you're so passionate as well, and you can see that just from our podcast today is what we need to see in the tech industry. People who really care about what they do and the people that they work with as well to achieve the amazing culture that you have. So yeah, I just think it's absolutely fantastic. Steph, you mentioned about the diversity and inclusivity panel that you have. Is that something that new that you have created? I mean, Anna or Steph, whoever wants to sort of tell me more about it. I think that's really fascinating.
Steph,
it's a fairly new thing. It's definitely it was something that, I mean, myself and Anna have had lots of discussions generally over the past couple of years about diversity and inclusion, and obviously inclusion is a massive part of our culture, and there is a focus on being more diverse. And I know from Anna and Ed's point of view, correct me if I'm wrong, but you obviously want to have more diversity, and that. So for myself, as part of my role, that was something that I was just interested in. And then we've kind of reached out and said to people, okay, I can't do it on my own, and it can't be a diverse opinion if it's just one opinion. So let's get a few more people on board, and then let's start planning for the kind of new financial year. Let's understand who we have in the shed, what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well, and then start to put things in place, because it's such a massive thing to tackle, but it's so important. Just breaking that down, I think there's no way that we're going to be able to get everything done in the next year, and I think it's just about being able to recognise where we're already at and what little steps that we can take, and whose voices and opinions we have in the shed, and how we can support those going forward.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. I mean, North Coders are very similar with how they sort of want to tackle diversity and inclusion. I mean, currently we have about 27% of our North Coders are women or non-binary. Obviously that is not as high as we would like it, but we are proud the fact that it is, higher than the average, which the average is around 19%. Mm-hmm. So we're really, really proud of that. And I think, and I'm sure you'll agree, and it'd be great to hear your opinion, but it's, how do we as an industry keep decreasing that gender gap within the tech sector and here in our community in Leeds. So you talk about things that you want to put in place to help tackle that. I mean, what are your ideas and sort of future plans if you've got that far along with your D&I panel? Where are your thoughts sort of sitting on that?
So it's definitely something that the panel have kind of talked about in saying we obviously want more women and non-binary to be in the shed. We've had a bit of a chat about talking with trans leads. There's obviously Stonewall. There's different organisations and initiatives that are in Leeds that we want to kind of connect with and get their opinion, and how we can kind of introduce things into the shed in a way that makes it, I guess, organic, but also sustainable. So we don't just want to be ticking a box. Someone, yes, we hired 12 women this year, but 10 of them left. But we ticked a box, we hired them. So we want to really make sure that it is embedded in our culture, and it's something that we can sustain. But I don't know, Anna, for yourself, obviously you're a woman in tech, and this is something that you really push for. Is that something that you've got a bit of a plan around?
I think for me, it's about how we're hiring. So we're looking at our hiring processes and making sure that we are removing any potential for unconscious bias when it's coming to CVs. To start off with, we've talked to the entire team about unconscious bias and the impact that can have. So what we're doing is just trying to educate people at the moment in terms of what their own perceptions might be and how that might impact the overall talent coming into the data shed. I think we've got a challenge in terms of making sure people feel included when they're here, and that they can be themselves, and that once you walk through the shed doors, you are a shedder, and that's the first and foremost. And you should always feel welcome, regardless of what your background is. I mean, there are obviously gender challenges, but diversity is much bigger than just talking about the gender side, and understanding social mobility, able-bodied versus disabilities, and how we can support people returning to work after having children and coming in from other industries. There is just so much to talk about when it comes to diversity, and you can feel like you're chipping away at one angle, and then you suddenly realise, oh God, right, okay, we need to be more diverse in other areas, and it's an ongoing challenge that the entire industry has got to lean into, and it's certainly something that the city, in general, from digital and tech perspective, is looking at. I know that Sarah Tulips leading a large piece of work around that with the council. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of that and understand how we can help be part of the wider picture as well. So we've got our own things that we're doing kind of at the data shed off, because it's important to us, but I'm really interested to understand how, as a city, we're going to challenge it, and how we start to attract talent from other industries and enable more people to come into tech from outside of the tech space and understand more around transferable skill sets. And then also how we get, obviously there's a huge STEM push in schools, which is amazing. We've seen a massive increase in terms of at the universities from a gender balance perspective onto the more STEM related courses in the last couple of years, which is a huge achievement. Along with that, continue. But yeah, I think there's just it requires a lot of people chipping away in a lot of different spaces to really force a change. And it's just great to be part of that, really.
Yeah, you're completely right. It's no one person is going to be able to solve all of these sort of social issues that we have. And I think you're right. The key points that I sort of draw from what you're saying, which I would 100% agree with, are educating yourself, because we can all do better, and we can all continue to learn and educate ourselves on these topics, and just sort of focus on that unconscious bias, and admit that everyone is guilty of this. And I think once we sort of remove the stigma of, unconscious bias is unconscious for a reason, and as long as we can recognise that and we care enough to do something about it, and actively and proactively do something about it, I think together we can all make a real difference pushing forward. And I have really high hopes and positivity for the future of tech and of digital, especially in Leeds and our community, because I'm constantly seeing, like you've mentioned there, some of the sources and resources that you're using and people that you're talking to. Things are changing and things are getting better, and we just have to carry on with that trajectory. And I think there's going to be really, really big positive things for our community in the future.
I have a lot of hope for the next couple of generations. I mean, I'm a Generation X, so I'm a bit of an old bird now, but I think some of the conversations I am seeing being tackled now, I could not have imagined happening even 10 years ago. It's fascinating to have lived through this current time period. So moving from an offline world into an online world, when I was in marketing back in the early 2000s, and actually starting to see kind of the impact that social media is having on some of the conversations that we're having and the accessibility that we have to some of the challenges that people are facing. It's just such a fascinating world. And I think, the people of Steph's generation and the people who are entering the workspace now are much more open to these conversations, and really we'll really start to see huge impact, I think, as those generations start to come through the workforce and really move into positions where they are the decision makers. There's only so much that you can do, I think, when you're kind of hitting the latter stages. And, I think it'd be really fascinating to see how some of these challenges start to get tackled as we get different opinions and different mindsets coming through into the workforce in the next 10 years. I can't wait to watch. I think it'll be brilliant.
I completely agree 100%. Steph, I can see you nodding your head along, so I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything you wanted to add.
No, I think I feel like that just represents the shed. Everything that you've just said, Anna, I just think there's probably people listening to this that unfortunately don't work for someone like you. And I feel really sad for them, because you're open to it and you recognise that and you appreciate people's opinions is such a great way to lead a company and be an influencer without even trying. Like, just just by you talking about that kind of thing in that way, you're already influencing the next generation to think, yeah, I want to be like that when I move into business or when I move up the ladder. I want to be able to treat people that same way. So I think that's really nice, because I think there's probably quite a lot of the older generation still running companies in a very old-fashioned way, not open to any of this, and almost very resistant to have anyone else's opinion that's different from theirs. So yeah, I think it's just really nice.
I do think that there's a lot to do with the fact that we run a tech business which is quite, it does require being at the change end of life. So I think it does make you very open-minded to be running a company like this. And this is where I think the tech sector's got a huge role to play in driving this conversation forward, because it is where a lot of change happens. Things do move at a fast pace, and everyone is very resilient to those forces of change. And I think we are used to having new and ongoing conversations where new information is coming to us all the time, and that is something that is really powerful. So yeah, I think that being part of the tech sector in general just really helps that conversation. So yeah, fascinating times ahead of us, I think.
I know, I can't wait myself. I can't wait. So in fact, actually, that's a brilliant thought. So what would your advice be for someone wanting to get into the tech sector or get into the data world, shall I say? What would your advice be?
Oh God,
a broad question, I know. Answer it however you like.
So I think it depends on what life stage and what experiences that individual has. I think you've got to do your research, understand what roles are available in the tech sector, because it isn't all about coding and writing code and being an engineer. So there are roles of all shapes and sizes and requiring all kinds of skill sets in the tech sector. As me and Steph can talk about, because neither of us can write code, can we, Steph? No.
No, thanks.
Yeah, no, me either. Yeah, if you see me writing like the code run very fast in the opposite direction, something's gone really wrong. I think it's about understanding what you have to offer and what your talents are. And if you're moving from another sector into this one, then what value do you add? I suffered from, I've talked about this before, crushing imposter syndrome when I took over the leadership at the data shed. So when I moved into the chief exec role and Ed moved into the CTO role, it was like about 3 weeks after I'd come back to work full time after Ben had started school. Ed had led the company up until that point, and I just didn't understand how on earth I was ever going to earn the respect of a bunch of engineers who were far cleverer than I am, and earn their respect in a way that I could lead them as an organisation. And then it took me quite a lot of soul searching and probably a good year of work with a coach to really understand that it was my differences and my experiences outside of the tech sector that really added the value to the data shed. And I think that's probably the message that I would give you. You've got to figure out what your core values are and what value you bring from your experiences, and then find a job that aligns with that and go at it hell for leather. Be tenacious, do your research, maybe do some courses around Agile, or learn Python, or go to North Coders, or do what it takes to get there. But there are lots of us here who have come from outside of an IT degree or data science degree. We've all got, if you look at everybody in the data shed, everyone has had a very different pathway into tech, and I think that's the message I would give. There is no one way into tech. There are plenty of different ways in, and you've just got to figure out what yours is.
No, that's amazing. Thank you. I love speaking to people like yourselves, because everything you say I just 100% agree with, and I love that, because I'm just like, yes, I agree, and yes, I'm on that wavelength, and yeah, I completely feel what you're saying right there. And I love these sorts of conversations, and just speaking with like-minded people, I just think is a fascinating, and I'm very lucky to be doing that. So yeah, completely agree yet again. That's all I have to say. So sort of let's talk about post-COVID then, and sort of your plan for 2021. Obviously, I can see that you're sort of working from home still. Do you have a sort of plan for the shed to move back to the office? Do you think you're going to be sort of a hybrid model going forward? I mean, have you not decided yet? Like, where are your heads at on that topic?
Big questions.
I was going to say, I'll leave that to you. You can take this one.
Big questions.
I think
you don't have to have the answers. That's not a problem.
When we closed down the shed, it was probably the most stressful weekend of my life ever. I'm not going to lie, it was unbelievably stressful trying to work out the right thing to do for 40 people, because we felt very keenly that their health and their well-being was our responsibility, and also our responsibility to the wider community. Mm-hmm. That being said, and there was no data, I mean, which for data people is just horrendous. Trying to make a decision without data, like what? And I think, there was a fairly obvious answer to that, which is, right, we just close down, and then everyone's at home and everyone's safe and we can do it and it will be fine. Coming back is a completely different kettle of fish, because people who have said that they did want to work from home are now really fed up of working from home. I hate it. And I think the prospect of us all working from home together is one thing, where we're all talking at screens and we're taking it in turns to speak. I will let you speak at some point, Steph, I promise. We're taking it in turns to talk, and you're not trying to butt into a room full of people who are on the other side of the screen who are having a conversation to contribute to that session. So I do think that there are going to be some challenges coming up if we are going to move to a hybrid model, which we are discussing. How well is that going to work? And I don't think that we can answer that right now while we're all working from home. I think we're going to have to try it and see what happens. Do we want everyone in the office 24/7? Certainly not until everyone's safe and vaccinated and wants to come back. If people want to do a couple of days a week from home, that's a conversation to be had with them to understand how it's going to work within their team. But we're going to make it a team-based conversation as opposed to a company-wide company-wide conversation, because obviously we work with clients and clients have different requirements. So I think it will have to be flexible, and there will be no kind of one size fits all. And I think we've just got to figure out how that flexibility is going to be managed and looked after to make sure that we don't end up with people falling down the gaps, or administration failures, or comms issues. I mean, internal comms is hard enough as it is without people being in 50 different places, as me and Steph both know. So yeah, I think there are a lot of challenges in that question, Lucy, and we definitely do not have the answers to them. But hopefully we will be back in shed quarters in some way, shape or form in the next 2 to 3 months. It won't be all of us.
I think it's completely fine to not have the answer to that question, if I'm honest. I've had so many conversations with different companies who pretty much mirror what you're saying, is that we don't know. We want to do what the best thing is for our employees, and what that looks like right now is, still to be determined. And I think that's absolutely fine. I think we're living in such a strange time and a strange world at the moment. And I think just considering all the options and considering, how people feel, and like you say, using a sort of a company and employee-wide conversation rather than being like, this is what we're doing, is the only and best way that you can really attack the topic, I think, at the moment. So it's one of those questions that almost is like a trick. There's no wrong or right
you might have had a correct answer from somebody else, Lucy, that you could perhaps share with me and Steph, so that we might actually go away from this knowing what we're meant to be doing in the next 3 months. No?
Well, I wish I could, but I have come into the office today to talk to the both of you in a better environment than at home with my 2 cats, as Karen was telling you about, that normally like to sit on my lap 100% of the time when I'm trying to work. And
I might have stolen it last year / borrowed it, but she's wandering around somewhere. She does tend to like jump in on the background when I'm in the middle of a call, so you might see her.
I will be sure to send you photos of my two. They are rescue kittens that, weirdly, as soon as lockdown hit last March, a stray cat gave birth to 7 kittens in the garden that we had to rescue and mother and feed every 2 hours by bottle until they grew up. And now me and my partner have kept 2.
Such a nice story for lockdown.
So they are literally lockdown kittens to like the ultimate description of what that would mean, and they are obviously almost 1 year old now, so I will send you both photos of them, and whether you want that or not, I will still send them because I'm like a proud
send us kitten photos. We've actually, one of our team has actually grown and produced a whole baby who will be arriving next month. So our first proper official shedlet is arriving in about 5 weeks.
Yeah.
We're very excited about that. I mean, obviously, lots of us have children, and lots of the Shedders partners have had babies over the last 5 years. But this is our first homegrown shedlet. But it's all happened while we've been at home, which is very sad.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing news. Oh my gosh. And that, I mean, I feel like that is more an ultimate lockdown baby than my kitten story.
I think we're on the same level.
I don't want to take away.
We're having a remote baby shower next week, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah, you should never ask me to organise anything because I just get way too excited.
That's exactly why I asked you to organise everything.
I've definitely gone overboard, but I just got too excited.
That's my sort of vibe. I love that. There is no way to do it unless it's over the top.
Love
that. So to be honest, I'd really just like to know, and actually from that conversation there, it leads me on to it perfectly. Like, what are you both looking forward to in 2021? And you can't say the first day to shed baby because we've already had that news.
Going on holiday with people who are not my husband and children would be number one on my list. I love you, Ed, George and Ben, but I definitely need to see some new faces, other faces, different faces in real life. That would be cocktails on a beach, or wandering around a different city, or somewhere hot. Just traveling would be amazing, and I know that's going to be a while yet, but I'm very much looking forward to getting out of here.
Yeah, same. I'd second that. I definitely look forward to getting on a plane somewhere, or just, I feel like being able to do anything without feeling bad. Like, in the supermarket, I'm like, should I be going? Do I need that Twix bar? Probably not. And like, I'm just looking forward to being able to text a friend and say, should we go and get a coffee? And it's like this massive secret plan where we've got to accidentally drive to the same place and then happen to walk by each other. And I just can't deal with that kind of stress anymore. I just want to be able to have the option to do things and not have to feel whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's it, isn't it? We're all missing people and missing seeing, you know, our more distant family, shall I say, than the people that we live with and our friends. And for me and my partner bought a house in November, something that we've been working towards for a long time. And we haven't been able to show anyone and hardly anyone's been able to see it. And I have taken this upon myself to spend every waking second that I'm not at work doing the house up, because I think, well, I've got no excuse. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not spending any money on anything else. But for me, I think 2021, having some sort of housewarming and having my family round and my friends round and being like, this is what I achieved in 2020, you know, a positive thing to come out of the year. That is what I'm looking forward to. And also, no one has met the kittens yet, so they have to meet their extended family.
Oh, wow. Yeah, my sister's had kittens, not actually had kittens. My sister has got kittens during lockdown, and I've not met those two either yet. So yeah, there's lots of new animals and children and babies and things to meet, and then there's also lots of parties to be had. I think the first shed get together when we're all allowed back together is going to be bananas.
Yeah, I'm quite worried actually.
I think that
Yeah, it sounds like a concern.
I'm not sure the green-eyed cat's going to survive.
No, it's not.
No, we love the green-eyed cat. It's our favourite shed bar. It's an extension of the shed.
You might as well move the office there when you go back. Why not? You'll be spending so much time there.
That's the dream, isn't it? Unfortunately, I've got 2 children, so no.
That's the thing, isn't it? 2021, I think, is going to be filled with probably lots of drinks that have been missed last year, lots of celebrations. Everyone's birthday in 2020 is going to be celebrated twice as hard in 2021, unless you're a January or February baby. Then I apologise to anyone listening who's missed their birthday this year. But yeah, it's going to be filled with so much fun and positivity, and I'm really looking forward to it. And hopefully you'll be able to come to the North Coast office, and we'll be able to come to your office again when that can finally happen again with people.
That'd be so nice.
I'm just going to pop out for coffee and see people, and it'll be wonderful. And I'll be going to bump into somebody, and shall we go for a coffee? Yes, let's. Anyway, sorry, I'm dreaming. I've got me fucking daydreaming there, Lucy. I'm like, all the possibilities. I haven't really let myself think about the positive possibilities for a really long time, and I think most people have started to feel a bit more positive again, and that lovely weather on Sunday really kind of was like, oh look, yes, this is what the world could feel like again very soon.
The sun is coming. The sun, the blue skies, light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously we've still got a way to go, I think, and there are still some things that our roadmap for the UK and for England coming out is still not 100% confirmed, but I think just the fact that we have a light and we have a plan, the sun's coming, the blue skies are coming, and everyone's feeling so much better. I mean, obviously last weekend, Saturday, Sunday was so bright and sunny. Yesterday morning, Monday morning, 9:00 meeting, everyone was so happy and so sort of perky and sort of positive, and I just thought, brilliant, that's what the sun really does to people. And the fact that we'll be able to enjoy it to the full, hopefully from this summer onwards, has got me very, very positive and very, very excited, especially because one of my best friends is getting married this year as well, and the fact that she thinks her wedding is still going to happen is music to my ears.
We're all starting in the position where my parents are vaccinated, Ed's parents are vaccinated, so we're starting to see some of the shedders get vaccinated, which is really wonderful news. So we are really starting to make inroads into that path towards safety, which is wonderful news. So we're not a million miles away now from actually getting some semblance of normality back.
Yeah, I think that it helps much as well. It's helping with just, I think, conversation and that community feel again, because I feel like throughout lockdown, everyone was doing things to their house. So if you ask them, what did you do at the weekend? Oh, well, I decorated my living room, or I bought stuff and I did this, and I went out and did a treasure hunt around the park, or whatever it might be. And then we kind of got into winter when nobody did anything. So anytime you asked anyone, they're like, nothing. Week, or it was just quite down, whereas now, like you say, this weekend just gone, it was that conversation again. What did you do over the weekend? Because it was sunny and everyone was excited to tell you, and people feel like they've got things to look forward to and talk about. I really do feel like it's changing now. I feel like people are starting to make plans, like, oh, let's do a barbecue. The 6 of us, we can plan a barbecue in a couple of months' time, and things like that. And I was frantically trying to buy garden furniture for the house and all this stuff, thinking, right, I can have 6 people. Brilliant. I need 6 seats. I need a table. I need a barbecue. Quick.
When it gets colder and everyone knows to go home because they're literally moving into my garden for the next 3 years.
Literally, one of my friends messaged me saying, I will come in a coat and a blanket and I hope that's acceptable, and I said yes, 100%. You can just sit there wrapped up to the nines, drink in hand in the garden, and I don't care if it's freezing.
Who's really entrepreneurial, it's probably a real opportunity for kind of wearable sleeping bags for the next 2 to 3 months.
It's a Dragon's Den idea waiting to come on.
This is the first time of hearing about it. If it comes on now, you know where they got the idea.
Yeah, you heard it here.
Copyright it quick. No, that's been brilliant. Thank you so much to the both of you for joining me this afternoon and just giving me your incredible insights into the shed and into the larger world, shall I say, and the things that we're all dealing with at the moment. So it's been wonderful to talk to you. So thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
joining
Lucy.
me.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Lovely to meet you too. Take care, both of you. We'll speak to you soon. Bye. Bye.